I think we're on. We're on. Okay. So, on behalf of Women in Animation and the Animation Guild, I want to welcome you to our panel discussion entitled Just Ask: How to Communicate What You Need in Order to Succeed. Thank you for joining us. So WIA and TAG have come together to support equality and flexibility in the animation industry, to raise awareness of the needs of working caregivers, and to support the animation community as we navigate this unprecedented time of COVID-19. My name is Kyle Neswald. I'm a director, writer, board artist, and co-chair of the Animation Guild's Family and Membership Committee. Our committee advocates for inclusive workplaces and provides a supportive community for our members in every stage of life. And I'm pleased to introduce our moderator for tonight's discussion, Tracey Miller-Zarneke.
Hi, everyone. Yes, I've got that weird last name. The Zarneke is always challenging. So I am here on behalf of WIA. I am the author of, I think we're up to 15 books about animation from either an art, history, or production perspective. And I have a background in production management. And being in that role led me to meet some amazing people, which eventually brought me to here, to Women in Animation. And I've served on the board for 6 years as its chair of Legacy and Archives. As you probably know already, WIA envisions a world where women share equally in the creation, production, and rewards of animation. And we aim to provide services and connections to make that happen. So you've also probably heard about our overarching goal to reach 50-50 balance in the creative leadership realm of our industry by 2025. And really, we align with a number of marginalized groups in order to support their voices being heard. And that circles us right back to where we are with this event, finding your voice in your best interests. So now more than ever, we realize that the work-life balance can be difficult to maintain. And it's time to ask the question, what do I need to flourish in both? Tonight, we encourage you to imagine the possibilities, and our panelists will provide the support and tools to empower you to just ask for what you need in order to succeed. So now it's our pleasure to introduce our esteemed panelists. They are individuals from both inside and outside of the animation industry who are here to offer a wide range of perspectives and to help answer some very important questions in the realm of work-life balance. So let's take a moment to meet them all. I'll ask them to briefly introduce themselves when I call upon them, so we don't all try to do it at the same time. So let's start with Kristin Donner.
Hello, thanks for having me. I'm Kristin Donner. I'm a color designer at Cartoon Network, and I am co-founder and chair of the Family and Membership Committee with the Animation Guild. As Kyle mentioned, we advocate for inclusive workplaces and aim to support our community in every stage of life. At this moment in time, I'm also on the caregiving team for my grandmother, so I'm excited to talk about how flexible schedules are benefiting my family and myself at this time.
Awesome, thank you. And sorry, I mispronounced your last name. It's just one of those things that happens in our crazy last name world. Let's see if I can get this one right. Kait Feeney.
You got it, thanks. Hi, everybody. I'm Kait Feeney, as Tracey mentioned. I'm an employment attorney turned chief operating officer for a Colorado-based company by the name of TILT, which stands for Talent and Leave Technology. So we work mostly with Californian companies, ironically, on how to make employee leave suck less for employees. So I'm excited to bring my expertise to the panel tonight on that aspect.
Thanks for being here, Kait. And now we'll talk to Elizabeth Ito.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth Ito. I have worked in animation for a while. I can't really think about how long because there's a lot of stuff going on in my house right now. But I have worked on TV shows, I've worked on movies. I'm a director, a writer, a board artist. I started as a board artist. And yeah, right now I'm at Netflix creating my own show called City of Ghosts that will probably be out sometime next year. I'm not exactly sure when. but yeah, and I'm excited to talk about what it's like to try to find work-life balance, which I don't know if it actually exists. I'm trying to make sure that it can for more people in the future. Right now, it's a little bit of insanity though with the way everything is. So yeah, I'm excited to talk about it.
Well, thank you for finding a quiet corner, or almost quiet corner, to be with us and to find the time. I know you are juggling a lot. Now let's meet Karen Kirkland.
Hi, I'm Karen. I am a literary agent and the co-founder of Culture Creative Entertainment, which is a literary agency. We represent writers and directors. I'm also the co-founder of The Break, which is a 3-day creative retreat in Palm Springs for female television writers. We're entering, well, we would have been entering our 4th retreat had it not been for these unforeseen circumstances. But I'm a huge advocate of writers in particular, and I'm excited to be here.
Great, we're glad to have you. Next, we will say hello to Jim Mortensen.
Hi, I'm Jim Mortensen, director, writer, board artist, came up through boards, and I'm currently the supervising producer on a show called Big Nate at Nickelodeon.
Great. Thank you for being here, Jim. And last but not least, let's say hi to Lori Perkins.
Hi, I'm Lori. I'm currently in the very smoky Bay Area. I am a professional coach with credentials through International Coaching Federation. I work with leaders in organizations to help get beyond self-limiting behaviors to become an advocate for self. And I do a lot of work with the human being who wears the employee costume. So I love that there's a lot of crossover these days where the employee and the human being are colliding at home. And so I'm hoping that I can offer some perspective for you all as you're navigating these crazy days.
Yes, they are crazy. Thank you, Lori, for being here. Thank you to all of you on our panel tonight for your time and expertise this evening. We're grateful that you could spend some of that with us. So we're going to kick off our discussion with questions that have been submitted in advance by some of our attendees. And I will apologize now if we don't get through all of them because we had a lot of them and a limited time in which we could respond. So I thank you for what you've submitted, and we'll get through as many as we can, as efficiently as we can, but as thoroughly as we can. So we're going to find that balance here tonight. So also, if in the course of the panel something comes to your mind and you want to ask a different question or another question, you're welcome to submit questions through the chat window that we will circle back to later. The lovely Kyle will help sort of keep track of what's being asked and when they're being asked, and then come back with our lovely panel later to ask those questions. So I think with that, let's launch into those questions. But first, let me find my document. Hold on. Okay, sorry. This is the joy of having a very small, very old laptop. This is part of the fun. Okay, almost there. Clearing out one document and another. My bad. Okay, here we go. Let's start with, what question should you ask if you don't know what you need to succeed? How would you go about figuring it out?
When I saw this question, I looked, here's how I heard it. So feel free to chime in if I'm not answering this correctly. But my thought was, we have this panel of just ask, right? Ask for what you need to succeed. But what if this environment is so new to you that you have no idea? I don't even know what I need in these crazy times, right? And so I had a thought as far as taking personal inventory to help assess, what do you want and what is it that would help give you the best environment or tools that you need to succeed in this crazy environment. And it could be, it's allowing time for reflection. And it's sort of a go slow to go fast. And so the best thing that you can do for yourself when you're in this crazy time is take a pause and even look at an area of your work life. It could be your relationships at work. It could be your environment. And I recommend looking at both sides of that. You're looking at yourself as a human as well as the employee. So taking inventory of what do you need on the job to succeed. This could be technology, tools, a certain environment, maybe support from a leader. And then you have your human side, which could be balancing children. Maybe you and your partner are both working at home. Or it could be, gosh, I put in so much hours, I'm exhausted at the end of the day. And so in order to take an assessment of, gosh, what is it that I even need to ask for, is to take inventory and say, how do I feel at the end of the day? Am I doing my best work? And look at your day, look at your week, and ask yourself what's working. And then even go into maybe what's not working. And it's allowing yourself to be honest with yourself, with your partners, with those who you work with, to say, maybe it's this isn't working. And maybe it's asking for, I need to change my hours. I need more time at night. Maybe it's telling your partner, I need you to not come in this room for 2 hours, because I need to focus. And so it's really just giving yourself that time to say, what's going on? If you're finishing the end of your days and you feel like you're exhausted, you and the people in your household are fighting, maybe things aren't working so much. And so you stop and just give yourself pause to say, what is it that I need? And then being authentic and real with who these people are in your life, just to say, this is what I need. I have a request, or I need something different because I want to make sure that I'm being as successful as I can in my role and keeping myself as a human being sustained. I hope that answers that question.
I think that was a lot of good stuff to think about. And it leads us into now you've asked yourself, so now how do you have, the next question is about having conversations. So the question we got was, how do I approach someone genuinely? And how do I communicate that I want to get to know them and not come off as an opportunist? So anyone want to take a stab at that one?
Yeah, I'm happy to jump in here. I think what this question is really getting at is, networking, which is completely an art. And admittedly, I'd like to say I'm a recovering awkward person, and there may be people on the call that are like, she is super not self-aware because she's still awkward. But I think one of the things about it is it's really, how do you overcome, these narratives that networking is disingenuous? And I think some of the tools that I've done in the past is adjusting my expectations and trying to be really intentional about the networking opportunities. If you go into a situation and you're not just thinking about, what can this person do for me, but like, what can I offer this person, no matter where you are at in your career, and really just take a step back and listen. I found that from those organic conversations and relationships, you can get a lot further. And another little body language tip that I learned once that's been really helpful, that I'm already doing a little bit myself, is if you're in a situation, a head tilt, just a little bit, has actually been proven in psychology to portray yourself as more charismatic. And I don't want to speak overgeneralize for the group, but I know speaking with others, some people might not be as confident or might be a little more introverted. You don't have to be super bubbly, but just a head tilt when you're having a conversation with someone can also go a really long way. And I think it comes back to human beings are herd animals. And so if you can connect with someone on a type of level, and whether it's, hey, you love to travel, or hey, you have kids, or hey, you're both caregiving, for parents, things like that, and connecting almost on an interpersonal level, and then building that trust towards the professional, I think can go a long way. And I know there might be others who have better advice, so I'll stop there and see if anyone else wants to chime in.
I'm going to hop in here too. Kate, that sounds amazing. So I'm going to try and build on what you just said. I think more than ever, because we're in this remote work situation right now, and most of us are having virtual meetings, I think connecting, finding ways to connect is so important, and making eye contact, but just the right amount of eye contact, like look at the person you're talking to if you can, or the group. And then also don't be afraid to smile, because sometimes with this distance, this virtual situation, it's hard to impart our emotions the same way we do in person, because a lot of our body language is missed, right? Because we're just kind of torso, or just our heads right now. You can't see our torsos. So I'm finding that I'm trying to be cognizant of having a pleasant expression on my face during calls. So now this is going to be a test. I'm sure you're going to look and make sure I'm keeping my smile throughout. But also, I think it's really important now to follow up after a conversation. It's much easier to do so if you're passing casually in the halls in the office. But now that we're remote, send a quick email or a text, like thank someone for their time, for talking with you. Like Kate said, if you did connect on a topic or a goal, maybe remind them of what you talked about in the conversation, so they have that sort of departure point, like a positive departure point for moving forward.
I'm going to throw in just one more add-on. I think authenticity always wins. Let your flag fly. I'll think about people who are trying to be someone else. It feels awkward when you're like, who are you? But if someone just is like, hey, how's it going? Or even, Kristin, I was really impressed with some work that you did on, this show. I would love to learn from you. Are you available for a 30-minute coffee or something? And I think also don't undervalue just direct honesty. One thing that I can't stand is when someone is dancing around getting at something and I'm like, just tell me what you want. And I think you'll find a lot of people want to help. They want to support you. We've all been there. We all do it. This is how we know each other. This is how a lot of us are here, is through relationships. So just be authentic, be super direct and transparent about what you want to learn. What do you want to know? Why do you want to have a conversation with this person? Just be honest. And I know that authenticity, you sort of standing in your own personal authentic glow gives others permission to do the same. So we need more of that in this world. So be authentic. Let your flag fly. Yeah.
Sorry, I just wanted to add one more thing on the other side of it. Like, I guess it's basically to say, don't always assume that if somebody doesn't get back to you, or they don't say yes to something that you've requested, that it means that they have no interest in talking to you at all. Like sometimes, I'm just finding this to be true with running a show. Sometimes you just get incredibly busy and you totally meant to write back to somebody or to help them, but you're just in a place where you're handling too much at the moment. So and I know I've been in the opposite end of it, where I've thought, oh, that person didn't write back to me. I must have said something wrong, or it must be my fault, or I must not have come across as genuine. But a lot of times I think it was just that people are incredibly busy sometimes, especially like people that you might look up to or that are trying to do really difficult things. So just try not to take it too personally if somebody doesn't get back to you right away.
Great. Anyone else have thoughts they want to add? No, I think that was a lot of great input. All right, let's shift on to another question. Here's one that asks, what kind of systems do you put in place to foster open, clear, and supportive communication on teams, particularly when team members who may only have a year or two of work experience are a part of it?
So this is a tough one, especially in these times. I think the answer back in February is completely different than the answer right now, because it's extremely hard in this era of Discord and Teams and whatever video chat or Zoom, whatever video chat software you're using. Like, it's very hard to have the type of casual conversations with a team that you're used to having. And Like when you're all working in a physical place, you can have the type of casual conversations that let people know that your door is open constantly. Like if you're excited about a Nintendo game and you have a 5-minute conversation, somebody may feel comfortable approaching you about a bigger issue later. So like conversations become so much less friction. The barrier to entry is so low that you can then have casual conversations about the bigger stuff. But in this area of like us having to schedule, of like board artists having to schedule time with directors, because you actually have to schedule time because you can't just walk over. I found personally, and I think we all stumble through this, and I've screwed up many times, but I found personally just having casual conversations before, just to get into specifics, like before and after a board pitch. Like before the storyboard artist has a pitch, we have a tech setup meeting that starts like 15 minutes early. So I'll go in there and the director will go in there and the board artist will go in there, and we'll just check everybody's technology to make sure that everything is set up well. We'll also just shoot the shit for 15 minutes, which then makes it a lot easier to converse later if somebody has a bigger issue, because then like you've just spent time with them. So as far as setting up systems to make sure that everybody feels that they can speak, I try to set up systems to have those types of casual conversations, to make that time to have those casual conversations. And then when you follow up, if you have a conversation afterwards, checking in and saying, hey, how are you feeling about that pitch? Or, hey, how are you feeling about this board note? Or, hey, how are you feeling about the show so far? Even if a person has only a year or two experience, be like, hey, how are you feeling? Are you feeling supported? You've been here, you only have like a year or two of board experience, but you want to make sure that we're feeling supported and you're getting all the knowledge that you need and the support from your directors and everything that we can do for you. Just constantly checking in and having those conversations.
Great. Thank you, Jim. All right. Another question about conversation. And this one says, as a woman of color who at times feels lucky to be in the room, do you have any tips on asking for things such as raises and work tools in a way that does not come across as what is often deemed as uncollaborative or aggressive?
That one was mine. It's interesting because in thinking about the answer to this question, or any tips that I might have, I like that lucky to be in the room was in quotes, because I've never felt obviously lucky to be in any room, more so than I felt that my position in that room had been well earned. Honestly, as a woman of color, I don't think about the fact that I'm a woman of color until someone brings it up. So I actually struggled with trying to find an answer to this question, because I sort of, it's what Kate was talking about earlier in terms of, I approach my work and I approach the other people that I interact with on a daily basis as human beings first. And I think there's an assumption on my part that that they are looking at me first and foremost as a human being. And this idea of, asking for something without seemingly being aggressive, there are times when I've approached something that I've wanted in a very aggressive way. I don't think that there's anything wrong with being appropriately aggressive given a specific situation. So the tips would be approach the situation, as a human being first and foremost. And no one is going to just randomly walk around, or rarely, I should say, I'm generalizing, of course, rarely does anyone just walk around handing out promotions or handing out raises, or just sort of like laying gifts in your lap. So if that's not happening for you, if that's happening for you, that's great. If that's not happening for you, at some point, you're going to have to take control of your specific circumstances, and you're going to have to step up to the table and ask. I often find that the thinking of the asking is a lot harder than the actual, or a lot more intimidating than the actual asking itself. And I like to play a little game with myself. And if I'm about to embark on something new, or if I'm about to ask for something and I feel comfortable, I feel like I'm either not pushing hard enough or not asking for more than enough, right? So if I'm feeling uncomfortable about it, a little uneasy about it, that's my sweet spot. That's the spot where I feel like, okay, yeah, like this is something exciting and I can get behind this, and I'm going to aggressively sometimes pursue this. And then the game that I play is, if they say no, I'm exactly right where I was to begin with. But if they say yes, how exciting could that be? So I personally, again, it's like I take this idea of being a woman of color out of it. I take the idea of being a woman out of it. I'm just a human being. I'm just a girl standing in front of a boy. No, I'm just a human being standing in front of another human being, asking for what it is that I want, with the understanding that that person would be doing the same thing for him or herself as well.
Yeah, I'd love to that's so brilliant, Karen. Thanks for sharing. I'd love to just add just a couple of things, generally speaking, maybe just from the woman perspective of, I have admittedly struggled a bit in my career advancement with this imposter syndrome. I remember being at the previous firm I was at, in a room, and I looked around and there was literally about 30 people in the room, and I was the only woman, and I spoke up on something, and all of the heads turned almost to be like, well, who are you? Why are you in here? We didn't even notice you, type thing. But I made a really valid point that took a lot of courage. And then thankfully there was an ally in the room who was like, I'm so glad you said that, Kate. That's a great point. Like, thanks for bringing it up. And we went off on this whole other tangent. So I think sometimes too, it takes, a lot, and it's hard. It's not easy to kind of have some confidence or to put yourself out there in that way. And then the other thing I will just say from being in private practice is formerly having, defended companies that had got hit, with lawsuits for discrimination on pay and other things. Oftentimes they would say, Kate, I don't even know how we got here. We didn't have like a practice of, we wanted to just pay all of these men more and pay all of these women, or, others less. But really what ended up happening is men were just asking for raises and they were just negotiating. And so in line with the theme of the panel, don't be afraid to ask, because like Karen said, the worst that can happen is a no. So I would just really try to encourage people, like, put yourself out there, and have confidence that you can do it.
Yeah. I want to tie this into one of the questions I just saw pop up saying, do you believe in fake it till you make it? And this conversation is reminding me of that. And I'm nodding as I'm listening to Karen and to Kate. And then I've been there. I've been in that room too, where I've felt like I don't belong here. Why am I here? Right. And so in the fake it till you make it, for me, it's a yes and no, because I don't believe in faking it. I believe in being authentic and genuine at all times. However, you can show up authentically like this, or you can show up like this, right? And so that's where your body language gets into it. And so you're in a room and you're like inside, the voice, we all have the voice, your inner critic, your saboteur, whatever you want to call that guy, the gremlin that's like, why are you here? You don't belong here. All these people have more experience than you. They've been here longer. That voice will just gnaw at you. And that's where it's your body is a tool that you can use to sort of bump that voice, and it's sit up a little straighter, widen your stance, make yourself bigger, take up the room, lengthen, feel dignified, feel connected, feel powerful, and sit there. And what this body does, I'm feeling it right now, and you can all try it as you're listening, is take on this stance, and you'll notice the voice will change to, yeah, of course I'm here. I'm powerful. I have a lot of experience. I belong in this room. And you notice the fake it, right, is you leaning into that
Yeah.
I get very passionate about this, as you can tell. I'm like, yeah, get it, do it.
I agree. If I could just add, Tracey, I absolutely agree with that. And I also think it's this idea of, we feel like if we have something to add, that it also has to be in concert with what everyone else is saying. There's often times when I've had a contribution that has been either the opposite or leading down some different path than what the entire group was saying, but it doesn't necessarily make it that any more invaluable, right? And so you have to have this idea sort of what Lori is talking about, of having a confidence and a knowledge and an understanding that your thoughts are just as valuable as everybody else's thoughts in the room, and that you have something to bring to the table. No.
It's great. It's great input.
I just wanted to say I have experienced what whoever asked the question is talking about. I do feel like there are times where, creatively speaking, there aren't very many people who are who are female and Asian or any other minority in the room where they're at the same level, kind of. It's mostly filled with dudes who have opinions. So I understand that weirdness of, like, sometimes you will be met with, I don't know what it is. I think it's just not an acceptance of, like, a lot of times I think it mostly has to do with the woman part, where it's like they're really not used to your voice weighing in on stuff or having an opinion. But it is sort of something where, like, I'm like that regardless of whether somebody is telling me I can't be like that or not. A couple of practical things that I just wanted to add were, one of the things that really helps as far as raises go is you should find out how much other people who are men make that do your job before you have to negotiate that. I personally feel like that shouldn't be an embarrassing thing to share anymore. So we should all be on the same page about what you make in your job, so that when I go into a room, I can say, well, why do you pay him that much? And why is it not okay for me to ask for that? I mean, you don't have to do it that way. It doesn't always have to be super confrontational, but it's a fair question to be asked. Because the other thing is, like somebody brought up that guys are not ashamed to ask for those things. And so you should act as if you're like that. You should have no qualms about asking for the same thing that a man would go into the room and ask for, and not be treated as aggressive or uncollaborative. You should just think of it that way, that, like, can you imagine a guy going into this situation and feeling that way, and just channel that energy. I guess kind of similar to what Lori's saying, like, take up the space. Don't assume that you're faking it. Just ask for what you're worth.
Great. Thank you, Elizabeth. I'm going to shift us so that we can cover a range of topics. I'm going to shift us a little bit into the realm of childcare, because we have certain topics we want to cover. Just so, some conversations are specific about certain things, and some people find them harder. So I want to make sure we hit as much as we can in our limited time together. So I'm going to ask a question. Do you share childcare duties with a spouse? Actually, I'm going to ask 3 questions. What does your workday look like, and how do you break up the day? So this is for a mom in the group here who's actually showing us being a mom right now. So Elizabeth, what do you think?
Yeah. Well, like Jim was saying earlier, this question is entirely just, I don't know, like for right now, it's been a lot on parents. I know it's been a lot on everyone, so that's not to like take all the take all of that. But yeah, I mean, before this and even during this whole whatever we're living through, I think it's really important that you and your spouse know kind of like what each other's goals are just in general, and then working as a team to see like if you both wanted this family and you're both taking care of the family, then how do you work as a team to make sure that like my work doesn't suffer, like I don't end up not going back to work, or like unless I don't want to go back to work, that's fine too, but it should always be a choice, and I feel like that's what like a partnership is about. Like, so my husband runs a studio and I'm running a show, and it's been incredibly difficult to figure out sometimes, and there are times when you'll fight about it and you haven't talked about things, but I think one of the most important things is definitely communicating when you can and checking in with each other, and sometimes it's just gonna feel crappy because it's a lot to manage other human beings. I guess trying like, there's like I'm off of Facebook now, but there used to be like a Facebook group that was called like the world's most okayest moms or something like that, where it's just kind of like admitting that it's okay to just be like all right at it. Like you don't have to be like a high achiever in being a parent, and it's all sort of a learning process, and you can be there for some stuff, but you're not going to be there for all of the stuff, and just like kind of being okay with that also like children are pretty resilient. They'll manage to adapt to a lot of different things. One thing that was hard to get used to was really like just taking them to daycare at the beginning, like the amount of drama that it felt like to go through for that. As far as like what our work day looks like, I'll just go with what it looks like now because I forgot what it looked like when we would go to work and send them to school. But it's pretty chaotic. Like it's very chaotic. Luckily on my show, I'm like kind of in a post situation now, so I'm really just reviewing things. But even that, it's been really difficult to get like blocks of time where you can watch that thing and even think about like, is it good or is it bad? Like, do I want changes? So that's been pretty frustrating during this period of time. But at the same time, like, yeah, I don't know, like a lot of back and forth between my partner and I of like, oh, you're not getting lunches ready. I'll get the lunches ready right now. I see you're busy. Oh, you have a meeting. Okay, I'll watch this kid at his Zoom class for this amount of time, or I'll take care of my kids. Some of it is that my family is local, so we've been able to get a lot of their help, and that's been incredibly privileged, but also just it's helped me to be able to do what I do. Yeah, I don't know. We don't really have a regular schedule anymore. I don't know if that exists. If anybody has any tips, I know this is supposed to be me giving you tips, but I can also use some tips. So.
Well, it kind of leads us into our next question a little bit. Some ideas, just to quickly throw out a couple ideas that we've heard about pandemic parenting and childcare now that school's back in session, especially. So, any ideas what works? I know there's some families are bubbling together, like, staying within a small group. There are cooperating like groups, people have hired a tutor to come in with a group. I don't know. Anyone want to add any quick ideas into that?
Yeah, totally. I'm happy to jump in. I think the first thing I just want to say, I do have a 2-year-old. I don't know if you could hear her earlier because she actually came down. And I'm also 6 months pregnant. So I'm new at all of this, but I also think the one thing I want to acknowledge is that there's not one size fits all approach. And I think it depends on a multitude of things, your financial situation, your family, like if you are lucky to have them around, the future that you want, if you're single or dual income, etc. But whatever decision you ultimately make in this time that we're living in, it wasn't easy to get to it. So I don't want anyone to beat themselves up over what they ultimately come to. So that's like my just first like little pump up positive thing is that, you know, I struggled with that and tried to compare, you know, what is my sister doing with her children in Illinois versus what am I doing out here? And states aren't even doing the same thing, you know, whether it's e-learning or daycares are shut down or et cetera. So I bring that all up just kind of like as a baseline that I truly think it depends on, you know, what your comfort level is and what is available to you. But one of the things that I feel like helped, and this maybe not answering as much as this question as the one before, but I just wanted to quickly share, was I found myself now in this Zoom land that we're all living in, having like literally 6 and 7 meetings backed up to the point where it starts at 8 and is going through the afternoon. And I have had to build in breaks or just small holds on my calendar where I just hold Kate. And that's for me to get up out of the chair, to use the bathroom, to maybe grab a snack. Like it sounds so silly, but it was one of the tips that ultimately, until I started implementing it like 2 weeks ago, I was going crazy and wasn't really surviving on that. So I'll see if Elizabeth or anyone else has anything to add on the pandemic childcare, but those are sort of just my general answers.
No, those are all good answers. I just don't feel like I have good advice because yeah, it all is so just like whatever helps you manage at this point. And no judgment like seriously about any of it. Like I totally get the small groups of families that are bubbling and doing, like I think some people have like preschool things together with like local families or like outside preschool or things like that. It is really hard to kind of think like, as hard as I might think I have it, like even just seeing my son's Zoom class, I just think, man, like I'm well off and I have a lot of support, and I can't fathom how everybody else is doing this right now either. So yeah.
It's definitely tough. I am lucky to say I have teenage boys at this point, so they're relatively self-sufficient, other than their hair is out of control. So moving on, we have lots of questions. I don't think we're gonna get through them all, but let's give it a go. Okay, how has the pandemic changed your perspective on how to balance work and life? Is there new flexibility on your schedule that you hope to sustain once the pandemic passes?
I'm going to jump in on this one. I have to say, as an artist, I'm kind of a night person. My creative window starts after lunch and goes into the wee hours of the night. And so I've always kind of pushed the boundaries of my work hours when we were in a workplace, with mixed results depending on who my supervisors were. And when I've had the opportunity, I've asked for the possibility of flexible hours or work from home office, just to like recognize who I am as a person and how I know I'll be able to do my best work. And in the times where that's been possible, I really have felt like I've flourished and I've thrived as a person, and I've felt so much more confident in my work, and I've had to revise fewer files just because I was able to zero in on that like sweet spot in the day for me. And so this pandemic situation, strangely has ended up being beneficial for me in terms of my productivity, because I am working at night now and I am doing other things during the day. As I mentioned before, I'm on the caregiving team for my grandmother, and the pandemic situation, the stay-at-home directive, just happened to coincide with my grandma falling ill and literally having a fall, and going from someone who was a little more independent to someone who needed a lot of care, like round the clock supervision. And so what I did was I initially asked for some leave time from work, and I just split the care duties with my family members, and we were able to hire caregivers to come into my grandmother's home. And so feeling free to have that conversation, and almost like knowing that I didn't have a choice, to have that conversation, like it was an immediate need, gave me the confidence to step forward where I may have not asked for that permission previously. And so I think maybe for a lot of us, we're feeling that this extreme situation that we're in is forcing us to make decisions and to prioritize differently than we might have if the world felt more normal. I certainly feel that way. And now that I'm back on my normal work schedule, I do enjoy that flex time. And because of the hours that my grandma is awake and available and when her memory is clearest, I need to be with her during the daytime. And so when I am on duty with her, or when I am just enjoying a visit with her, it has to be during the day. And so I hope to maintain these hours throughout the pandemic, but also when we create whatever our new normal is going forward. I want to be able to continue visiting my grandma and helping to make her feel safe and taking some of the load off my mom, who's her more primary caregiver. So yeah, I'm embracing this and I'm loving it. And I think, you know, we should continue having this conversation, because really I think what a lot of this is about is building the future that we want. And this pandemic is offering us a really strange test tube where we're testing a lot of new possibilities and a lot of new workflows, and we can see what works and what doesn't, and we can ask the hard questions and maybe have a little more confidence and more presence to demand, or, you know, just feel confident to say what we need. Yeah, so I love it. I love a flexible work schedule. Please, let's keep it up as an option.
That's great. Thank you for sharing that. And yeah, this has kind of reset things for a lot of people. So hopefully some new normals come out of it. Next question. As a manager, how do you address your staff's needs for flexibility? Can you share a successful story where someone asked for help in a productive way? Or can you share a situation that was not done productively?
Sure, I can speak to that just very briefly. How do you address the staff's needs for flexibility? Just manage upward. And if somebody asks for something because they need it, communicate that to the person that needs to know that in a positive way. For instance, I'm supervising board artists specifically. If somebody says, and this is an example of somebody who asked for help in a productive way. I'm not going to go to the negative part, but somebody asked in a productive way. They said, hey, the air conditioner in my apartment is busted and I need to have somebody come in for 9 to 1 and I'm going to be unavailable. Can I get a little extra time? Is it cool if the deadline gets moved? I said, okay, let me talk to the production manager. Let me talk to our line producer and we'll see what we can do. And then just communicating that upwards. Hey, this person has a couple hours that they need to do something else. Do you mind if we move the deadline? And assuming we've done our job of proper communication and making sure that that everybody trusts each other, then the request gets answered in a positive way.
Great. Thank
I
you,
love
Jim.
that. Can I add one little quick piece
Sure.
on that, Jim? I think that's so great. I was reading about this Danish company, actually, that when the pandemic happened overnight, essentially they had to switch 25,000 workers to being remote. And they've been wildly successful in doing that. And actually their margins and everything are up. So the CEO has been getting a lot of buzz of, you know, how did you do that? So I think the one additional tip I wanted to weave in here for, you know, leaders and supervisors and et cetera on the call is, if you're able to, they follow this methodology of tight, loose, tight. So being really tight and communicating to people what the expectations are, and then being really loose, kind of how Kristin was talking about earlier, and giving folks the autonomy to deliver on those goals and results, and then being really tight on the follow-up of, if you didn't do that, you know, here's why we can't continue to be being flexible, or, hey, great job, like we can continue this route. So I think it's just that mind shift that obviously this land we're living in has set us all in, but I've heard and seen a lot of success with that sort of tight, loose, tight methodology.
Thank you. That's great sharing. I'm looking at the clock and thinking we still have so many questions to get through. I'm going to skip around a little bit, panelists, from our plan. So please follow along if we can. This is actually a question that isn't just pandemic related or anything. So here it is. Is there a more graceful way to inquire about salary, benefits, and compensation? And how does gender affect this? And actually, well, I'm going to throw this in there as well, and you guys can speak to whoever feels best suited. I'm going to talk about maternity leave in there too. So whoever can hit that, let's go.
The maternity leave part I can weigh in on. Like one thing that I found just in the state of California, there's like definite rules around how you get compensated for if you're going to take time off, and you can get compensated by the state, but it also has to be like you've worked at a certain place a certain amount of time. So that's one thing to just know, like before all of it, so it doesn't sort of like hit you like as a big surprise. The second thing that's just been really helpful is having a producer or a manager who has either had kids, so they know that it's not like they know how to talk to you when you want to come tell them like I'm gonna have to take some time off. And like, to be honest, like I knew that it is really stressful on them, because like I understand that there's like a show running and your job on the show is all of a sudden going to need to be done by somebody else, and that's always a hard process, and there's like a timeline on it and all of that. But I've had the benefit of having really great producers and people around me who I didn't feel, after I came to them with that info, they were so happy for me, and they treated me with respect and helped me figure out what to do to like take the time off and do all the things that I needed. And even when I had to like pump in my office, like they weren't like they helped get me the things that I needed for that. So that was probably like the best case scenario, but I do realize like that's not always the case. So anyway.
Yeah, that's great. And I can just jump in kind of on the salary negotiation pieces. A couple quick things I would say is, from my experience, people tend to respond better to data-driven decisions. So someone might have brought this up earlier, but do your homework. There's one company I can think of by the name of PayScale, and you can go on and do some research in terms of your geolocation, your job title, et cetera, everything else, and it will actually spit out a range totally free of charge. And if you're able to kind of go in there with that type of data, that's helpful. You don't also have to give an exact number. The range is helpful so you don't undercut yourself when you're talking about something. And then I also think a really good negotiating tactic is to consider your take-home pay. Sometimes it can be received better by someone who's making that comp decision if you're able to sort of break it down into, hey, after factoring in what you said you were going to pay me and taxes and insurance and public transit and parking lot and all of these things, when I'm looking at my take-home pay, it doesn't even cover the median cost of living where I'm at. And so sometimes when people factor in those things, and it's going back to what Lori said earlier, like you're a human being, that can kind of help push things in your favor a little bit more. And then I think the last piece on this is just, and someone might have mentioned, when it comes to having those conversations, be confident, but also just like check your attitude. It's very instinctive of us to try to be defensive and approach it in an adversarial way when you're bringing something like that up, because it's just awkward and weird to have the money conversation. But if you go into it more with a cooperative attitude, I've found employers tend to respond better to that too.
I'm going to jump in real quick and add to the resources Kate just mentioned. If you're working at a guild shop, please take a look at the Animation Guild's website. We do have a wage survey available on the website, and also take a look at the contract for your studio just to be aware of what the minimums are. And that's your starting point. You can always negotiate and ask for more. In my case, I like to do a little prep work because I'm always nervous. I'm always nervous about these conversations. I'm at heart, I'm kind of shy and non-confrontational. And I think someone mentioned earlier that it's oftentimes like the lead up to the conversation that's the most stressful. And so I like to make a list of all of the attributes and skills that I'm bringing to the job. If I'm asking for a raise at a job where I've already been. I try to make a list of what I've accomplished during the season or my tenure there. And that's kind of a confidence builder. I mean, even if you don't share the list, you remind yourself, like, yeah, I am valuable here. I am contributing, and I should be able to ask for this. And then I also wanted to say, in terms of sort of additional benefits and talking about family leave and parental leave, as Elizabeth mentioned, state of California provides a partial pay replacement, partial income replacement, but some studios have come up with options where they'll provide the rest of your pay, so you kind of end up with 100% of your salary during your leave time. I'm a big fan of this. I celebrate the studios who are doing this because it really shows support for our working families. It encourages our parents to take leave and to be healthy and well and bond with their children. And we know through research that if you take care of yourself and your children early on, that you'll have fewer doctor's visits and health issues down the road. We also know that when fathers and secondary parents take leave, this also leads to fewer issues with sexual harassment in the workplace, more empathy and understanding and respect between the sexes. So it's just a good idea. Everyone wins. So I just want to like lift that up and throw that out there. And please, studios, consider looking at the whole person who you're employing, and workers, consider asking for what you know is going to lead to your success, your best success as a worker, as a human, and that work-life balance that we're all seeking.
Got it. Thank you for adding all that in. That was great. I'm going to throw a couple questions to Karen quickly, because we've had a lot of input about writers here. I'm going to combine a couple just in the interest of time, because we do have to wrap up soon. But Karen, let me ask you, I've heard that the way to get a manager or agent is to have a writer refer you to their manager or agent and vouch for you. Is this the standard practice that other writers employ? And if so, how do they do it without making their writer friends feel uncomfortable or used? There's an awkward conversation, perhaps.
Yeah, I don't, it's funny because I only see the other side of it, right? I see the side of it where a client of mine will come and say, as a matter of fact, this happened yesterday, will come and say, hey, not sure if you're looking for additional clients, but here's somebody that I met with. They're either a friend of mine or someone that I just met, and here are reasons why I think you might click with them and they might click with you. So I've seen that happen where a client has come and recommended a stranger, meaning someone they happen to have coffee with that they thought would be a good fit. I've also seen it where a client has come and recommend a friend. And I think, so I don't see what it looks like on the side of friend to friend asking or stranger to friend asking. I see it from my perspective of on the receiving end of that. And I can tell you, I see it a lot. I see it happen a lot. I think, you know, when you say friend, is it a real friend or is it an acquaintance of some sort? So it's just a friend. I think a real friend is going to want to be supportive and helpful. And if there's an opportunity for them to recommend you, they will. I don't think it needs to be an awkward conversation. For me, everything is just about getting it out there. I don't know who said it earlier about just, you know, speaking your truth, be honest, don't beat around the bush. I think it was Lori, right? And it's like, I think this idea of, hey, listen, I need representation. I've heard you speak highly of your manager or your agent. Would you be willing, after reading my material, to make a recommendation? And then you have to be prepared for that person to say, absolutely, give me the material. And even if they accept the material and they read it, they may not feel comfortable recommending you, and you have to be willing to accept that. But then again, they may read the material and go, yeah, I think it would be a good fit. Let me send an email to my agent or my manager. So there doesn't really have to be any awkwardness around it. The awkwardness is what you're bringing to the table. If there's sincerity in your heart and you feel like this is a person that you can approach and ask this question to, then you absolutely should.
That's great. Thank you so much.
I don't even know if that's helpful because I don't see it from the other side.
But it's good for you to express what that side looks like and sounds like. And I think that that's super valuable perspective to our guests tonight that are watching.
Yeah, and I think it's hard too from the money perspective, right? Because I spend my days asking for more money. I spend my days negotiating aggressively, on behalf of my clients.
Yes, that's got to be a hard job. I can't imagine. So you guys, we are past our hour mark already, but I want to do quickly is I want to kind of free for all for a moment before we pass the baton over to Kyle. He's going to quickly get in a few questions that came in live tonight. Here's a question. How do you stay energized to create personal work or improve on your art after a full day of work? And I'm going to interpret that a little wider to say, how do you stay energized to make sure you are healthy and strong? Your voice is clear. Your all that is in sync. So take that question however you want.
I want to jump on the phrasing of the question for how do you stay energized to create personal work to improve on your art after a full day of work? It's that last part that I'm going to attack. You are the most important thing to you. So take that time. I know everybody has kids or we have a job or take that time before any other responsibilities kick in. For me, I personally get to work a little early, and that first half an hour to me is sacred. I do not do any other work other than personal work. Or if even on the weekends, I'll wake up a little earlier and do the work and do personal work or be motivated. Don't leave it to the end. Do it first thing, because you are the most important thing. And if you take care of yourself and if you invest in personal growth, that's going to benefit the company that you're working for or whoever you're providing services to. Like they're going to be paying you the same, but they're going to be getting the benefit of your training. So just do it for yourself first thing.
That's great. Anyone else have a thought on this?
I want to jump in and tell you about something I'm experimenting with right now. It's going to sound crazy, but a musician friend of mine recommended sleeping for 4 hours, 4-hour block, then wake up, do something for a couple of hours, and then go back to sleep for a few more hours. Because apparently 4 hours is kind of like a natural waking point. It's like a sleep cycle time block. So I've been trying that this week. And Tracey, because I sent you an email at like 3:30 in the morning. So I got up, went through all my emails because I was finding I was falling behind in my emails. And I was really awake. Like once I decided to do it, I woke up, I had a little water to drink. I felt like I was in this magic time where it was cooler because, we're in this heat wave. So the weather was nice. The world was quiet around me. So there were no distractions. I caught up on my emails and I felt so accomplished. And I think that peace of mind that I had allowed me to get a really great deep couple hours of sleep when I went back for that second block. And I woke up feeling so refreshed. So far I'm finding that this is a great way to just get some me time. And that could be your sketching time, whatever. But for me, it was emails has to get done. But
I actually love that. I gotta try that. That sounds fun. For me, it's I spend all day, every day, or Monday through Friday, and sometimes Saturday and Sunday, giving to other people. That is inherent in my job, to give, push. So for me, first thing in the morning is, as Jim was talking about, I have to do it then, because anytime I've said I'll wait and I'll do it on lunch or I'll go later in the evening, it never, ever, ever happens. And then I also had to incorporate right before I'm about to go to bed, or at least an hour before I'm about to go, I cannot look at emails, because I'll end up dreaming about solutions or dreaming about client issues or things that I need to take care of, waking up in the middle of the night thinking about it. So there's little, and it ebbs and flows, right? There's little tweaks that you do here and there. I find that a walk in the morning is really, really good. And then in the evening, just finding something that I love to do that sort of fills me back up and allows me to decompress. And then obviously I don't check emails at all, an hour and a half before I'm about to go to sleep.
I say move your body, find a way, even if it's for 30 seconds. I'm a big fan of the 2-minute at-home dance party. I'm telling you, it's stand up, even if it's walk across the room, walk to the bathroom, because I know we've all been in those places where you're so attached to that fast lane of emails and work and productivity and you forget that you're in a body your mind sort of leaves your body and you're doing all the things. And that's a sign that you're doing too much when you've left your body. Walk to the bathroom. I bet you have to go pee. How many people just go, oh my God, I forgot to pee today. Go walk to the bathroom, go outside. Even if you just stand outside and do something, 2 minutes, it will make all the difference. If you can set an alarm, put a Post-it, just stand up, turn around, sit back down, and go back to work. Anything that will get you in your body will give you that 2 minutes, will give you an extra hour of energy.
Awesome. Any other ideas?
I mean, I agree with what everybody's saying. Like, I think physical activity has been a big one for me. One thing though, like I don't really do the working on my personal stuff after work because my work is so personal right now that it's just continuing work. And also I don't remember who said it, but like it's not possible for me to work late anymore. I can't. I've tried and the next day I feel really bad. But I would say that it's less like after work and more like just realizing you need time to recover and to think and to process and to do all of these things that while you might not be working, they're still really important. Something that I keep repeating is just that therapy has been really helpful for me to work out what's in my brain so that I don't get stuck on certain things. Same as Karen, I try to put my phone down and not look at email, not look at social media after a certain hour because it creates these brain spirals in me and I just like need to not do that because it keeps me awake. So I guess it's just like realizing that there are going to be periods of time where you're not working on your personal stuff because you need that time to like regain your energy and to like just get your thoughts together about what it is you want to be doing.
That's great. That is a lot of good ideas, you guys. That was awesome. So I'm wondering if Kyle is out there and wants to come back on and talk about some of the questions he's seeing coming in on the chat. So we could try to answer a few of those perhaps. So I'm going to go quiet and look at that hat.
I'm ready to just ask for my Caribbean holiday. When's that coming?
You go ahead and do it, Kyle.
Enough of that. So I saw probably what I think is a difficult question, but I think it needs to be posed to whoever can answer it. So you've gotten the courage, you decide to just ask for what you need, whether it be a raise, whether it be time off for childcare, what have you. And it's met with some hesitation. And you're not really getting an answer one way or another about it. What are the next steps that someone can do to further that just ask conversation?
I'm going to try this with this because my day job is I'm in sales. And there's a model called EARS, E-A-R-S, and it's objection handling, right? So when you're met with hesitancy, E, empathize. I understand you have hesitation. Our production schedule is really busy and we're all kind of crazy right now. And then A, ask or clarify. And it could be, I sense that you're worried about taking time away, or from the schedule or whatnot. So clarify, like, what is it that is giving you pause? And so you're met with hesitation. One thing is like, okay, sorry, and you leave. Or you take it head on and go, thank you for listening. I understand why you might have some hesitation. Can you clarify what it is exactly that might be giving you pause? And then you just do this and you let them talk. And whatever they say, and then the R of the EARS, E-A-R, is respond. And so respond to whatever they throw your way. And then the S is secure, So you've clarified, here's what you want, you've responded to, okay, great. So you've said that you're worried about maybe my time being used in a different way and it's going to take away from our production. Can I follow up with you tomorrow with a proposal or an idea of how I can give you the confidence that I'll still get the time done, or, whatever. So that's the process, EARS, EARS, empathize, ask or clarify, respond to what they say, and then secure, ask again for what you want with more information.
Yeah, I'm glad that that last part was there, because that's big for me, is when you're met with an initial no or some hesitancy, I think it's important that you lay the groundwork for the next time you're going to come back. And I think it's important that you let your manager or whomever, your employer, know that I understand very much all of what Lori was saying. I love the whole EARS thing, love it, love it. But I think at the end, it's important that if you're not coming back the next day, that you set the groundwork to let them know that I get it and I'll be back.
I love that from both of you. And I'm going to say something that might be a little provocative, so maybe follow their advice first, because I think that's super actionable and helpful. And I think the other thing is, if you go through that whole process and listen, your needs still aren't being met and you don't feel good about what's happening, I think you have an opportunity, as scary as it sounds, to make a value-based determination on, is this the company, place, project, etc., that you want to work for. And I know that that sounds frightening, and I also know that that can sound incredibly privileged, like some people might not just be able to do that, but I would encourage you, if you are in that position, to do that, because some of these social structures that are in place right now will not be toppled unless there are people that can stand up to those types of things. So, it's going to take a movement of all of us to change this. And the pandemic has largely helped by putting all of these things at the forefront. But truthfully, I would just say, have the courage. If you ask and you're not met with what you want, it's not pack up your toys and walk away. It's really reevaluate if that decision, is being made with something that aligns with your values or doesn't, and be okay with walking away if it doesn't.
Just to add to that, maybe again to be a little provocative as well. Nothing gets a company to offer you a raise like a job offer elsewhere. If you have the leverage and you say, hey, I have this other opportunity and it's for a lot more money. I really don't want to leave, but it's an opportunity that I would like to do. If you've been having the raise conversation for the last 2 years with the company that you're currently at, and it has gone nowhere, nothing opens doors like a little bit of fear.
Yep.
I guess we'll move on to the next question then. We'll end at fear. No, just kidding. Let me bring up my questions again. All right. I like this one because this also has to do with just asking, but instead of for time off. As a producer's assistant, I often feel isolated because I am not a part of any of the core teams. I have let my team know on several occasions that I want to help or do more to help and feel more a part of the team, but I still feel left out. How do I just ask to be more of the team?
That's a tough one. Like, I would have some questions, like, are you asked to be part of the team? Did that person say they've asked to be part of the team and they were told no?
Unclear.
I'll jump in here with some kind of thoughts, I guess, sort of based on my previous tangent that I was saying. If there's a way that you're able to, instead of just asking to be part of the team, just sort of exert what we've been talking about and insert yourself as more part of the team in whatever way that looks like. If you are overhearing another conversation and, you know, somebody had to ask or was, you know, concerned about one thing, and then you took the initiative yourself to do a little bit of extra research on that and say, hey, I heard you talking about this. Here's what I found out, etc. But any way that you, beyond words, can kind of show with actions, you know, that you have that type of skill or you're willing to go like above and beyond, I think is a good starting place. And then again, I would go back to like, and if that's not working, you know, I don't care what position you're in, from the janitor to the CEO, everybody should be respected. So, you know, if you're not, again, it's sort of like reevaluating that value system yourself, and don't let somebody else believe in you more than you do. Like, you need to be that champion, like, for yourself as well.
To add to that, I would say find a problem that comes up and solve it, and just say, like Kate was saying, hey, I heard you were having this problem. Here's my crack at solving it. And even if your solution isn't the one that's accepted, you took the crack at making somebody else's life easier, and then they will be way more accepting of having that, or of including you in those conversations. Because it's like, oh shit, this person's a problem solver. Oh man, my life is easier because they're in the room. Come on in, please, help.
In addition to those really great professional suggestions, I want to say maybe take a social approach as well, because as we know, so much of our industry is based on networking and socializing. And of course, it's a little harder now that we're not in studio, but I think there are ways that you can really put yourself forward and make connections, and those connections might lead to that promotion or that inclusion later. So maybe brainstorm ways that you can, you know, become that go-to person who everyone wants to spend time with on the crew, or like somebody who like creates that Slack channel for everyone to chat. Like, you can kind of work around, you know, those barriers, the professional barriers, maybe through the social track.
All right, how are we doing for time? I want to make sure we're on schedule here.
I think we need to shut it down before 8:30, so that looks like just around 10 minutes tops.
All right. I'm going to go back to some of the previous questions that we might not have gotten to. Let's see. Someone actually recently asked me how best to just ask for medical issues. How much do you reveal of yourself when the medical issue arises versus our tendency to just ask for some nebulous time off because we don't want to discuss these personal matters? Is there a way that we can have these discussions about that?
Yeah, I'll just jump in a little bit from the legal lens. I recognize that that's very general, but one thing that I would say, as others have alluded to, is there are, you know, both state and local laws and then federal laws that may entitle you to certain time off. So don't be afraid about bringing that question up. The next thing I would say, you know, generally speaking, the FMLA has protections, job protection benefit in terms of entitling you to a certain amount of time off based on what the reason is, and et cetera. So don't just assume like, hey, I can't take this time, or I'm not entitled to this time. You legally may well be. So, you know, do a little homework there, or, you know, reach out to the folks here and they can connect you to me. I'm happy to kind of dive in, because that can get to be a very specific question. But yeah, there's options out there. And in terms of, you know, how much you disclose versus not, I think there's somewhat of a comfort level in terms of, you know, who you're asking, how close that relationship is, all of that. But you're not always mandated to tell every single little detail. So just know that that's there too. You have the discretion to hold some of that to yourself.
Yeah, and just to add to that, I think there's only a certain amount that, like me as a manager, like actually allowed to ask you about that. So you don't have to disclose anything like that to your manager. You can just leave it at like, it's a medical thing. And then beyond that, you're not really allowed to ask them about it. So yeah, you should never be put in that position, I guess is what I'm saying, that you have to say beyond just saying it's a medical issue.
Yeah, we did have a question earlier that we didn't get to about, like, what if it's a regular appointment? Like, what if it's therapy? What if it's, I don't know, something else you have to do weekly? Does that add any level of complication to this discussion?
In my opinion, not really. I mean, I think it's still kind of similar to like any doctor's appointment. You could probably just say like, I have a doctor's appointment and leave it at that. You don't even, I mean, as far as I know, you're not required to disclose what what kind of thing it is or whatever it is. It's just asking for it, and then it's up to me to not to not be like unnecessarily nosy about it.
I think to what Kate was saying earlier, the tight, loose, tight thing, as long as you're communicating clearly that you know what the expectations are, like that I have a deadline, I'm going to have to hit on Friday or whatever. It is communicating that you need time off or communicating that you will be unavailable Fridays from 3 o'clock to 4 o'clock. Just blocking an hour out is totally fine, as long as you're communicating like that you understand what the expectations are in general.
What else you got, Kyle? What you got going on?
I always just have that pregnant pause happen. Actually, I will chip in on that one and say, as someone who's as a director and also like kind of in that middle management position, and when people come to me with their issues, like board artists, I do my best to filter it up and always communicate that, hey, I have a board artist that has specific needs. And also, when you're in a management position, the show that I'm currently on, they're great at facilitating and communicating and making sure that there's a community of people who then fill in those other roles. The production is not an island, and it's not unto itself. There's an entire team that's there to support you. If it's not doing that, it's not a great production. But a good production will do that, and you should feel comfortable asking for those things that this isn't something you want. This is something you need. It's a medical condition. And so knowing that, I think you should definitely have the confidence to speak up about it, because it's your life we're talking about. So it's not something that's just nebulous. Let me go back through these questions.
Yeah, make it a quick one if we're doing one, because we got to wrap it up.
Well,
Sorry.
let's wrap it up. We can wrap this up. If anyone has closing statements or arguments. Counselor?
Parting thoughts, last advice that anyone wants to get in before we say goodnight? I know you guys all gave amazing advice already, but don't want to leave you hanging on anything.
I think there was a question that somebody asked about how to get writing gigs and connect with individuals who have the ability to offer those writing gigs. I just kind of want to speak to that really quickly during the whole COVID thing. One of the things that I found is that because of the situation we currently find ourselves in the way in which we're having to work and connect with people the best we can, that it's somewhat actually leveled the playing field, because people don't have their big offices or their big studios to hide behind. You know, we're getting on Zoom calls, we're having telephone calls. I can hear the kids in the back. I can see, what's happening in their space. And so I think now more than ever, the window of opportunity to connect with those that are in the position to give you writing gigs and opportunities is better than ever. And you should definitely be doing that through social media. And I think people are looking, I won't get into other areas as to why I think individuals content creators and writers are the ability to be able to connect with those that are in the position to give them opportunities, I think is now better than ever. So continue to connect with people through social media, DM people, offer up services. Somebody said earlier, be of service. I think that's really important too.
I want to jump in and kind of jump off of Karen's thought that I think right now we are having a window into each other's lives, and I think more than ever we recognize that we are all people, we're all humans. You know, we have messy houses, we have families, we have things going on, we have beautifully diverse lives, and I think hopefully that makes it easier to approach these types of conversations with one another, because it's just a conversation between one human to another human, right? And so I think I just want to encourage everyone to see each other, like really see each other in this moment, and recognize that as part of a team, part of a production, we're all trying to realize the same goals together, and thinking about and being open to hearing about how we can meet those goals together and individually, I think is really important. And so whether it's an issue of healthcare, childcare, whatever the issue is, personal work-life balance, I think these conversations should be heard. And I think everyone should just feel really confident to recognize each other right now, and take this moment to really build something strong. Like, I think we can make a more fortified industry and tell better stories now as well, because the more we embrace diversity and support diversity and lift each other up, I think we have just an amazing powerhouse to animate and to connect with each other. And so, yeah, please support each other and see each other. And I'm so happy to see all of you today as well. I just want to say, like, this panel is amazing, and you all have such incredible life journeys and stories. And I can't see the audience, but to all of you, I'm so happy you're here. And from one human to another, thank you for letting me be part of your evening.
Kristin, we're really happy you're here too, and I'm happy for all of you in the audience also. So thanks for coming. Thanks for arranging this. It's been really awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks. Amazing panel.
Yes, thank you, everyone. And thank you for everybody for sticking around with us till
And
8:30.
big shout out to Tracey for all her hard work.
I'm a great nag on email. Thank you all. I hope everybody learned something, and I wish you all good night.
Bye.
Night.
Thank
Bye.
you.